Per usual, everything on this channel for educational purposes only is not intended as financial advice. It's Wednesday, let's take a look at some alts. Not much has changed here over multiple weeks. Unfortunately for the altcoin enjoyers, dominance makes a new cycle high. Close level looks to be making new cycle high. Levels here eventually above 64. There continues to be very little reason to be denominated heavily in alts for any reason. When this rolls over, I'll be right there with the rest of you, rooting for page 56 or whatever on CoinMarketCap. But thus far, the trend has been clear. Levels have been clear. No bearishness whatsoever. If anything, there's a cup and handle we're working on here. And the cloud continues to be supportive of BTC strength relative to alts. It's not going to be a surprise when this rolls over. If it rolls over, it will probably take some time to consolidate first. It probably will not be a sharp inverse V lower. So we're not there yet. And we may go to 72 first. That's the next level at this point. So I don't really have much bullish news on the relative value pairs for alts. And if that's the case, then what's the point? You know, if you're not going to beat BTC in a bull and they go down more in a bear, it just doesn't make sense. Here is total 2 relative to BTC taking out stables, and they continue to bleed lower, 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 lower. Now at some point you're going to get a relative value bounce, a mean reversion bounce. That doesn't mean that we've reversed the trend here, but it's certainly getting increasingly oversold, and we're in 2020, 2021 range currently and continuing to drop. Now a lot of this is ETH, admittedly, but ETH BTC weakness echoes what you're seeing on many of these altcoin charts. It's not like Solana is randomly bullish. We'll take a look at that today. But Solana doesn't really look like it's the place to be either relative to BTC. This is BTC market cap minus total 2. And I kind of like to think of this as the kinetic energy for the alt season. If we have money sloshing back and forth between Bitcoin and alts, generally, if we think of it as very highly speculative where total 2 is greater than Bitcoin market cap, that's the end of a run. And we can see some of that relative value sell-off in 2021 and 2017. Currently, Bitcoin market cap is worth much more than total 2. And should this reverse eventually, and for whatever reason alts are the play, there's a lot of money that could float into alts based on this metric. So if alt season starts, similar to dominance, you're going to see this metric fall lower. And then we are closer to the end game for alt season when there's a big spike down in BTC value relative to total 2. So we are very far away from any of that starting. For the people saying, what if the bull market hasn't even started yet? I mean, for alts, it really hasn't started yet. Alts have been moving up and down for the past several years, but over the past 5 years, they haven't really gone too far away from their highs. Looking at total 2, we are below the cloud. We do have a IHS setup. It's kind of squished and diagonal. It's hard to see there, but it is forming along with BTC. Just as it did back here, you had this diagonal IHS with a falling wedge variant. So this could recover from here. It's just too early to tell. Today we have tariff announcements at the end of the day, and then we have the digestion of the tariffs throughout the week. We've got unemployment at the end of the week. Still a lot of moving parts on the macro side. But if BTC can pull up, alts can probably start to do better. I don't know about a relative value better, but they should start to do better on a USD basis. Not that that matters or should matter to most people. The benchmark should always be BTC. But where alts have a chance to do better than BTC is in a broad risk on period, which probably wouldn't come till later in Q2 or Q4. Not expecting Q3 to be bullish across the board. It generally isn't. That's usually when we bottom. Even last year, we bottomed in Q3 and recovered throughout Q4 and finally had our move later in Q4. So there's still just a lot of time on alts. If we look at it in alt proxy, even ARKK has fallen quite a bit and just sort of back to where it was in 2020, 2019, hasn't really gone anywhere in multiple years at this point. It was great if you caught the signals in 2020 and got out at the bear signal on the cloud here on the weekly. So this could eventually keep going, but here, what is it? Is it anything? Am I confident in bullish, bearish, or anything in between? Not really. And that's kind of where you're at with alts as well. Now, as they like to say, there's always a bull season somewhere. There's always a bull market somewhere. You're just not looking hard enough, whether that's FX or gold or EM or international or whatever. If you're willing to broaden your horizons a little bit, and instead of forcing trades on alts, just look for things that are setting up or doing well or meet the requirements of your system, then you're probably better off than forcing stuff on alts here. But this is MSTU. This is leveraged Bitcoin times leverage, 4x BTC effectively. If BTC holds this pattern, which we'll look at in a second on the daily, MSTU will take off. Something to consider, right? It's an alt-like play where it's leveraged BTC on top of leverage, which is what people love. They love the leverage. Anything above 7 here is probably go time. Anything above the cloud is probably go time. This is the 4 hour, so you get your answers here pretty quickly. But if this breaks out like it did basically on launch, it could have a decent run, especially relative to some of this alt stuff. If you put this against Solana or put this against ETH, it's going to be no contest if BTC starts to pull up again. Before we go any further, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with a link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Pair Adventures Inc., PBI DBA Kraken. Looking at the daily BTC chart, where there was only a hope and a dream previously, we now have, in my opinion, a pretty decent setup here for the inverted head and shoulders. There's your neckline. Whether that diag is being hit today, whether we'll hit the close above it today, that's a little wishy-washy. A lot's dependent on what happens at 4 p.m. with the tariffs, obviously. But if we start to get closes above, like I talked about yesterday, above 88, above 89, a new local high, any of that stuff continues to be a great sign for risk on crypto, risk on BTC. So if you're an altcoiner, you're rooting for BTC higher, obviously. If the worst happens, and if we make lower lows or start to make lows here below 81, below 79, below 80, alts rip lower extremely fast, just as they did breaking down from 94. So although the bias here looks bullish, there's still an event at the end of the day, whatever that is. Maybe it's priced in, maybe it doesn't matter anymore. Who knows? But we'll find out. It's hard to fade this if you're a bear, just as it's hard to fade this ripple head and shoulders if you're a bull. I can't unsee this until it resolves, so it just is what it is. So we get an answer on the BTC chart probably at the latest by Friday, because that's when the unemployment number comes out. If we're above 90, closer to 92 into Friday, great. If we are above 92 in May, then we reignite the once a quarter move. Like 2024, we had plenty of false starts, right? So nothing's a promise, but just as I got bullish back here with a bullish breakout, bullish TK cross, that will happen again this time. Bullish cloud, bullish TK cross, price above cloud. That's all I need to see. Whatever happens after that happens. We know where the stop losses are. They're at the cloud. But this is like a May problem. Just looking at this inverted head and shoulders throughout Q2, we could set up for an all-time high retest. We'll see, right? We'll see. But if that happens, alts should start to do better. Against BTC, I don't know, but they should start to do better. Now, I don't know what it would take for Ripple to act on its own here and break up or down inverse to BTC, but it's certainly possible. It's probably going to be harder for Ripple to break down if BTC breaks 88 higher, but I just don't think there's a trade here until this sorts itself out and the cloud's telling you as much. It is in the cloud that is neutral. Above the cloud, you're bullish. Below the cloud, you're bearish. And right now, this has a bear chart pattern on it still. ETH daily, what is there to say? Really, nothing going on. There is this, it's half formed, whatever. It's not pretty sure. Like there's something here. Is it tradable is the question. To me, no, but to some people, yes. You've got a div here. You're getting a lower low on less momentum. You've got BTC potentially pulling up. I just don't really see a reason from a risk perspective to trade anything outside of BTC right now until we're sure on the BTC direction. Throughout Q2, even into early Q3, ETH could set up for something to 3K, which would basically be an edge to edge. Maybe this bottoms out down here or something, and then you get that edge to edge move into the cloud. Way too early to tell, and certainly dependent on BTC. Sol has a better case for that inverted head and shoulders, so I would trust this move. I just like how this looks better, right? You can clearly see the lows, you can clearly see a diagonal neckline, at least in my opinion. You could even just draw this as a horizontal, whatever you want to do. If you like it here, maybe you nibble and you cut it at lower lows and you add at the neckline. Maybe you add over the course of a couple days. But assuming BTC breaks up, this will also break up. And this will probably outperform ETH, which is another problem for ETH. What's the point? If you're not going to outperform relative to your peers, it's even harder to take this trade. So just like we set this up, I think last week on Sol, this trade is probably still valid. Now I'd expect Sol to play out before ETH. And this is what you want. If you're a trader, if you're agnostic to the moves, you want as many moves as you can get, as many setups as you can get. So ideally, this actually moves with BTC or slightly after, and then ETH lags and moves eventually. That's best case, because then you get 2 or 3 trades out of the one setup. But if you're an ETH holder, you obviously don't like that. This measures to, let's call it 200, basically, top of the cloud. So Sol looks good here as long as it doesn't make a new local low or a lower low below 120, below 111. Should be okay in the moment. Some of the meme stuff has started to look interesting. Fartcoin, it's got a cup and handle, it's got an inverted head and shoulders, right? Like, I can't deny that. On the 4 hour, it's trying to get into bullish territory. Is it a trade here for me? No, but there's an argument to be made if this can get back above 62 cents. Sure. It's clearly on the top of the volume list. You know, it's what people are trading and what people are looking at. So that's helpful relative to the other memes, relative to its peers. Even just looking at this list, Ripple at the top relative to ETH and Sol. SWI up a bit today. Similar story, I think, to Sol. On the daily, it does have, you know, it's trying to work on something. It's trying to get out of this channel. It's trying to get above the Tenkin. It's trying to work on a bottoming process. If this can get back above 370, we can talk about a trend again, which may happen, but it's a little early for that. So still in bear territory, but if you want to take an intra or a counter trend trade, you just put your stop losses somewhere down here or whatever is appropriate and you see what happens. But it's a little early on that one. EOS, I don't know what happened. I know they rebranded the other day. Who knows really with some of this stuff? What notes do I even have on this thing? Okay. So it was in a broadening descending wedge. It's got some sort of macro, this thing, right? I wouldn't touch this with a 25-foot pole. I don't care if it's up 10,000%. It's EOS. Sorry. If in maybe Q4 it can get above the weekly cloud, then maybe we might see a move. But I really don't see the reason to touch this. If anything, it's just moving here because it's down so much on a relative value basis compared to everything else. But if the cloud likes it on the weekly, I can't say no to that. From an analyst's perspective, I still wouldn't touch it. Doge on the daily, also again working on the pattern. I don't hate it. Shoulder, head, shoulder, diagonal. It's really personal preference. Which one of these do you want to take? Which one of these looks better? Which one of these do you expect to work first and maybe some laggards catch up? ADA is still a mess. I don't really think there's anything to do there. LTC also kind of a mess. Nothing to do there. I guess if you measure the breakdown here, we're kind of in the wheelhouse of where you expect it to move. This will move with the market, but not a great look as far as trend is concerned for LTC. Pepe, still setting up. It's setting up for something. This is something that I would certainly want to catch just because you don't have to bet the farm on it and it's got a decent risk reward setup. But it's not a now trade. It's a watch this like a hawk trade until later on in Q2. Assuming everything's bullish, assuming everything we need to be bullish gets bullish. This has a shot at a decent setup, decent trade, but it's not today. You can even see the TK cross starting to slow down, starting to potentially flip bullish here in a week or two. We'll see. But definitely something to keep on the radar, especially because it's down, was down at one point like 80%, right? Yeah, 81% from December. Aave, we'll just flip through some of these quickly. Most of these are going to be the same. It's either going to be a diagonal inverted head and shoulders or some sort of trend line or some sort of falling wedge variant. You can see that here on Aave. And it's just personal preference. Do you think any one of these is going to outperform the others? Do you care? Do you buy the group? Do you buy a sector? Here's Ondo, same deal. Descending channel below the cloud. You have your triple bottom attempt. We'll see. None of this stuff gets trend bullish until it's back above the cloud, so that's going to take a lot of time. But if BTC can pull up, this other stuff can start to do well. Tau was in that really aggressive down move, and I don't like this stuff because it doesn't have a history of doing well over an extended period of time. If you watch this like on Pepe where there's a move and there's a setup, I don't mind trading that. But this isn't something I'm just going to buy and hope it goes up. It did have a nice consolidation breakout in 24 when not much else was going on anywhere else. But down here, I don't see anything. It doesn't speak to me down here. Maybe an ultra low time frame, triple bottom IHS, but to me that needs more time. So I think you just got to make your own mental tier list for what you like, what you don't like. And everybody's got their own idiosyncratic reasons why they like one thing or the other. AVAX, just like the others, downward channel below the cloud. Trying to triple bottom here. And maybe similar to Pepe, you kind of have to line these up based on what's in your total book, right? Do you want a full cadre of meme coins relative to S1s, L1s? You know, that's just up to you. But this is something to watch along with Pepe later on. A good thing about AVAX is it usually lags from memory. And if you're looking for additional setups or trades beyond an initial move on like BTC or Sol, you could get that on AVAX. And that's a decent move if we see it in Q2. Trump, has this gotten to one digit yet? Not kind of, almost skimming the bottom there on $9. Nothing to do here until this starts to pull up. Again, it does not have a history of anything. It goes up, straight down, goes up a little bit, straight down, up a little bit, straight down, up a little bit less, down a little bit less. So it's trying to bottom. There's probably unlocks or something going on soon here. I wouldn't touch this. I wouldn't hold this until it has some momentum back into it. XLM probably looks similar to Ripple. Not really. It looks worse. Nothing to do here. You know, if you weren't watching this in November, you missed the move. It's just the way it is. I certainly wasn't. So that's why you got to do a broad scan and like what you like, take some notes, set some alerts, and move on with your life. But at this point, what is there to do? Is this a flag? Is this a pennant? Is this a channel? Hasn't made higher highs in a while, just sort of hanging out. So I don't see anything to do there on XLM. Link probably has the same thing as everybody else. Yeah. Descending channel, falling wedge, IHS. Sure, right. It's trying. Some people like Link a lot, some people don't. But yeah, maybe that's a trade to think about relative to the group. Monero, nothing going on there. Still just, Monero doesn't really move generally. So most altcoin people aren't really going to want to trade this. You can only really trade it on Kraken. And that's that. And that's not going to change regardless of the fundamentals here. Doesn't really matter. Curve daily, setting up for a little flatter of an IHS. Bullish TK cross there, I think today or tomorrow. So yeah, today. So I would look at this one as one of the earlier movers. I don't know if it's stablecoin related. I really don't know why. DeFi in general has gotten pretty smashed, but maybe set an alert at 55, 56, then make a decision, depending on the rest of the market. But this is a early mover candidate relative to everything else that still looks like it's setting up to me. Probably not a great expected move, but where there's nothing much going on, that is an option. Sol BTC continues to make lows. Just why, right? Just why? You had a multi-month potential ascending triangle that failed. Then you had a head and shoulders that broke down. And before that, you had a potential cup and handle that never went anywhere. All right. So the next time to play this is when it's back above the daily, and we're here. So I got nothing else there. ETH, BTC, same thing. These two collectively are the reason why total 2 looks like it does. There is just no strength here. Just straight down. We can zoom way out. We can zoom way in. It doesn't make sense to me to do anything here until you start to see strength. This is a parabolic move to the downside that's just continuous. And every day I see a new long-term holder selling their entire stack. You can go to the Look On Chain Twitter account. There are various other Twitter accounts tracking this sort of thing. Is it deeply oversold? Absolutely. Are the fundamentals pushing this lower, and does this price make sense? Yeah. Are the ETFs helping? No, because ETH is not getting flows relative to BTC. So that tells me all I need to know. Bonk and some of these others, kind of the same story, just waiting on the group to turn around. Maybe looks a little bit better than Pepe, maybe moves ahead of Pepe, maybe. But that again is personal preference. SHIB will take a look at, same deal, similar chart, similar edge-to-edge setup. I think as a group, these memes might move a little sooner than layer ones, just because they got beaten down so much. So you may see that mean reversion play first. I mean, look at DOT, right? DOT is probably in that category just because it was down 70%. You got a decent edge-to-edge potential here to watch for. Probably move this alert down to there, 478, but there's nothing to do here. Whiff, I saw that they canceled the Sphere plans the other day. This one not acting like the group, not quite bottomed just yet. And I think we'll stop her there. So not much going on. I'd watch what BTC is doing if you have an opinion there. One way or the other, that's important. And then we'll see where the chips fall at the end of the day and throughout the week. All I got for this one, like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.